All right, so you wanted us to really dig into this Yankees-Guardians ALCS Game 3.
And we are, we're locked and loaded.
The Yankees are up 2 games, sure, but the Guardians, they're back home now. Experts, I've got to say, are a little torn on this one.
Yeah, it's anyone's game at this point, and we've got SportsGrid, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, all their takes to try and make sense of it all.
Pitching, those player stats, heck, we might even sprinkle in a little baseball history for good measure.
Because we know you don't just want you want that juicy why.
Okay, so first up, got to talk about this home field advantage. SportsGrid, they're practically saying Progressive Field is like the Guardians MVP. A 50-point jump in OPS when they're playing at home. That's what they're saying.
50 points. That's not even just a bump. That's like, I don't know, trading in your old car for a sports car. It's a big deal, and it makes those Yankee hitters maybe sweat a little bit more.
All right, okay. I'm starting to see why some people are giving the Guardians a real shot here.
Yeah.
But it's not just the stadium, right? CBS Sports, they were talking about the Guardians pitching, especially that bullpen. They've been on fire.
Yeah, their bullpen ERA at home, it's a tiny 2.00. That's elite level stuff. An average of 12 walks and 39 strikeouts. Just imagine facing that lineup late in the game. Talk about pressure.
So we've got this stadium that's basically a home run factory and a bullpen that's lights out. What about the actual guys on the field, though? CBS Sports seems to think this Josh Naylor, he's going to be huge for Cleveland.
Yeah, and it's not just a hunch. They point out that he's got this history against the Yankees. 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, and get this, in just 22 games. That's not luck. That's like he's got their number or something.
Like he turns into, I don't know, Babe Ruth whenever he sees those pinstripes. But CBS Sports also reminds us that the Yankees, they've got a slugger of their own who's on fire right now. Gleyber Torres. He went 3 for 5, 2 runs in just Game 2. Clutch.
Totally. Those individual battles within the bigger game, that's what makes baseball so great. You've got these little stories playing out alongside the main event. Speaking of stories, can we talk about these pitching matchups? Because things get really interesting there.
All right, set the stage for us. Who are we looking at? What's got everyone so fired up?
Well, for the Guardians, it's M.Boyd on the mound. Now, on paper, looks incredible. Perfect 0.000 ERA in the postseason. But, and SportsGrid pointed this out, there's this thing called FIP, Fielding Independent Pitching.
FIP, okay. For those of us who haven't, dedicated our lives to understanding every baseball stat, break that down.
So basically it's like this, right? FIP, it looked at what a pitcher can control directly, strikeouts, walks, home runs, all that. Ignores, like fielding errors. And Boyd's FIP, it hints that maybe, just maybe, he's due for a reality check, especially against these Yankee hitters.
A little statistical red flag there. But the Yankees, don't they have their own pitching question marks? Fox Sports seemed a bit worried about Schmidt starting. That 5.78 ERA isn't exactly inspiring confidence.
Then it gets even more interesting. They dug into the numbers, and Fox Sports highlighted how the Yankees, they finished the regular season tied for 5th most home runs given up to left-handed hitters. Guess what? The Guardians. Yeah, they've got a few lefty sluggers who would love to add to that total.
Okay, so potentially shaky pitching on both sides.
Yeah.
Sounds like we might be in for a high-scoring game. But you know what they say about assumptions.
They usually lead to strikeouts.
Exactly. And speaking of strikeouts, we can't ignore the judge in the room.
Aaron Judge, I mean, that name alone is going to make some pitchers lose sleep.
Yeah, and for good reason, right? Fox Sports, they reminded us about that little stat line he's got going. A .322 average leading the Yankees and 58 home runs this season.
58? That's not even hitting home runs anymore. That's like, I don't know, major league moonshots.
So you've got Judge, this massive presence for the Yankees. But CBS Sports, they seem to think the Guardians, they've got a secret weapon. That whole Moneyball approach.
It's a classic, right? Brains versus brawn. CBS is suggesting that patient at-bats, drawing those walks, making those pitchers work, that could be what wins it for Cleveland.
But doesn't that, I don't know, doesn't that kind of backfire when you're up against a guy like Boyd? Remember, SportsGrid was talking about his walk rate. Practically non-existent.
See, that's the question, isn't it? Can the Guardians really get in Boyd's head with that strategy, or are the Yankees just going to overpower them? It's a tough one.
That's why they actually play the game. See who can outplay the other. But for all this talk about, numbers and strategies, sometimes baseball, it just comes down to momentum.
Oh, absolutely. And right now, it's the Guardians who are searching for that spark. SportsGrid even pointed out they haven't had a lead, not once, this whole series.
Talk about an uphill battle, right?
Yeah.
Down 0-2 against the Yankees, it's like playing on hard mode.
But, and if we've learned anything from this deep dive, it's that this Guardians team, they love to defy expectations. Remember that 2.00 bullpen ERA we talked about?
Yeah.
At home? That can change everything.
Okay, so the Guardians, they've got home field advantage, a bullpen that's throwing heat, and they know how to work an at-bat. But let's be real, the Yankees have something else on their side. History.
Can't argue with that. And that's where this deep dive, it gets really interesting. We're not just talking stats, we're talking legacy now.
All right, you've got my attention. Give us some context here. What's the story with these two teams?
Well, CBS Sports, they reminded us the Guardians, they haven't been to the World Series since, 2016? They've got a lot to prove to themselves, to their fans.
So that hunger is there, right? That desire to be back on top. But haven't the Yankees been on a bit of a cold streak themselves, championship-wise?
Exactly. Fox Sports even mentioned it. Last time those Yankees lifted the trophy, 2009. Ancient history in baseball years.
So we've got two teams, both desperate for a win, both carrying that weight of expectation. I bet you can feel that pressure even watching from home.
And if you go back even further past just recent history, these two teams, they've always had a knack for these crazy, unforgettable playoff moments. Remember 97 when, you know what, we'll save that story for another time.
Probably for the best. Don't want to spoil all the drama before Game 3. But speaking of drama, you know what else caught my eye in these articles?
What's that? More unexpected stats. Some hidden trend in the data.
You know me too well. SportsGrid, they dropped this wild stat. Since 2019, nobody, and I mean nobody, has a better winning percentage in night games played on Wednesdays than the Cleveland Guardians.
Get out of here. That's spooky. Like, the baseball gods themselves have marked this game on their calendar.
Whatever the reason, it just makes this whole thing even more interesting, right? But with all this talk about history and legacies and spooky stats, I almost forgot why we're here.
To give our listeners all the tools they need to watch Game 3 like a true baseball expert.
Exactly. So, before we get too carried away, let's bring it back to those key takeaways here.
So you're walking into this Game 3 watch party, right? You've got, like, an arsenal of baseball knowledge now.
Oh, yeah. I'm not forgetting about those players, the ones who could just flip the script at any moment. Naylor and his whole thing against the Yankees, Torres on that hot streak, even that Wednesday night stat, it's all up here.
And that's what we were going for, right? You're not just casually watching anymore. You're analyzing, picking things apart.
Yeah, for a minute there, I was going to ask you which team mascot you thought was going to be louder. But you've got me thinking like a manager or something.
That's the goal. This deep dive, it's about understanding this game on a whole other level.
So we're wrapping up here.
Okay.
Any last pearls of wisdom for our listeners? Any bold predictions before we let them go?
Here's something to think about. We talked a lot about that home field advantage, their pitching, how the Guardians, they can really work an at-bat. But what if, and hear me out, what if it just comes down to who wants it more?
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
The Guardians, they're fighting for their playoff lives here, right?
Exactly. Sometimes all those stats and the history, it goes out the window. It's all heart.
That's why baseball's the best. It's more than just a game, isn't it?
Couldn't have said it better myself. So you're watching Game 3. Just remember that. Who wants it more? That might be all that matters.
You've given everyone a lot to think about today. The stadiums, the pitching, the history, heck, even a little bit of baseball superstition.
It's all part of the fun, right? And hey, maybe our listeners, they'll win their fantasy leagues because of it.
Stranger things have happened. This is the playoffs. Anything is possible.
That's right. Enjoy the game, everyone.
We'll catch you all on the next Deep Dive.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.